Ms. Webb thought it was at 6, and Diego thought it was at 5:30, but they both said they were on their way, so they should be here. I think Diego's gonna be here first. I think they both have the same distance to drive, but I just assumed Diego was dressed and ready, and didn't have to do his makeup or lipstick, so. Should be okay.
I think we can start, right? And that, I don't wanna keep you all from watching what happened today at the Capitol or Washington DC. Everything's going on with legislative session. Now Abbott is gonna be on TV tonight on his priorities. And I'm sure vouchers is number 1. So there's a lot to be. Anyway, we have Charles, Dr. Charles Dupree here, we can start. So, this is the Team of 8 training today, February 3rd, 2025. And I welcome everybody, and the other people will get here today, I'm sure sooner or later. So this is something that is so important for us to have that Team of 8 training so that we can all work as a team and every year build on what we have. So, welcome, Dr. Charles Dupree.
Thank you.
And,
Appreciate that.
yeah,
Well, it's good to be with you again. As I was preparing, I realized it's almost exactly 1 year ago we were together in the same room. So I appreciate your trusting me to have me back again. It's a different conversation this time, but it's really at its core, it's the same conversation, right? It's about the board, it's about the superintendent really working together. I'm going to tell you, you mentioned the current political climate of what's going on right now, and I actually was in a conversation about that today. And just having worked with you before, my heart and my gut tell me that as a board, whatever happens at the Capitol, you're going to navigate it well. Because the person I was talking to, I said, you know, at its core, when educators and trustees remember their why they're doing what they're doing, the children, the face of the children, the teachers that work with those babies every day, whatever happens, all the noise around us, whatever comes, as long as we stay focused on that why, everything's gonna be okay. It'll be hard at times, money may be tight, there'll be challenges, there'll be new policies, there'll be hurdles we'll have to overcome. But if we just remember why we're doing what we're doing and not allow ourselves to get caught up in the, I always call the hoo-ha, and the turmoil, but focus on our strong why. And that we're developing those kiddos to rise up and take our places in our community, really, is what we're here to do, then we're gonna be fine.
can I mention something along those lines?
Sure.
We had the most difficult time this year with the deficit budget. So budget time was an extra time where, I mean, we had a lot of discussion and, you know, different views, and we all wanted to save everybody, you know, from any reassignments, and but anyway, we worked through it and everybody was happy. I mean, it's, we know that sooner or later, there'll be some money to get these people back where they belong.
Yeah.
And so we were able to work through the budget. That was the most difficult budget I've ever been through.
That's saying a lot. Well, so tonight we have a couple of things we want to work on specifically. Tonight I'm going to move around a little bit just so I can read the screen and still see you all at the same time. But when I was working with Carlos to kind of plan our training, you know, he talked about quite a bit about the fact that you all are working on kind of some potential revision to your strategic plan. And then you talked about that at the recent workshop, and so there's some work that you're considering. Now, keep in mind this is a plan that was a 22 plan that started in 22, that's ending in 27. You're over here. You can sit by me.
Because I'm late, right?
That's it.
I'm never late. I'm sorry, sir. Never, ever. I'm never late. I'm always early.
So I know that's been a big part of your work. So what we wanted to do is kind of set the stage to do a strong finish from right now, the beginning of 25 till the end of 27. And we wanted to look at the board assessment results. You know, part of the board's expected to do an annual self-assessment. So this is a good time to kind of look at your performance as a board, how you're feeling about yourselves, how you're performing as a board. And so we're gonna work on that tonight. Then we're gonna work on kind of the preparation of the board and the superintendent team and the organization and check on alignment to fulfill the 22 to 27 strategic plan. We're gonna look at kind of strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to successful fulfillment of that plan. And then we wanna make sure, do some work around the strategic plan and alignment with the superintendent appraisal. So that your superintendent is being evaluated based on the performance according to that same plan, not a different set of goals. So these are the three big rocks. We have this training tonight. We've got another one scheduled for March. So this is gonna be kind of, we'll get through as much as we can tonight, then I'll be back in March and we'll continue to the finish. And the plan would be, from what we talked about today, is that you would then, at a March board meeting, consider potential revisions to the strategic plan. So hopefully these two workshops and at least one board meeting in February will give you adequate opportunity to really dive into these things and be prepared for that vote in March. So any thoughts or questions about our objectives for tonight? So next up, so the norms, you know the norms, you all know how to behave, you're all effective board members already. But we just, tonight is where it's kind of about a self-evaluation. It's checking your performance, your readiness as a team of 8 to lead the district with this strategic plan. I always tell folks, you get out of something what you put into it. Whether it be an exercise and fitness and diet plan, whether it be a meeting, a training, if you show up ready to fully engage, you're gonna get out of it what you put into it. Nothing we're gonna talk about tonight is about you or personal. It may be about your role as a board, but truly, it's at its core, it's about the collective team of 8 working well together. And we all know that no individual is perfect, no team is perfect, but we're always striving to work hard, continuous improvement, to do better, be better, and get better. What is said here stays here, and even though it's recorded, so I guess it is where it is. Another thing I like to say is, take space and make space. So if you're somebody who often sits back and lets others talk first, and you reserve your thought, press into the conversation. There's a phrase I use: come out from behind yourself and be in the conversation. So take space tonight. But also, if you're someone who tends to talk a lot, and you know that about yourself, pull back and make space for others. All of your voices should be heard in this conversation, so allow each other that grace to give and to take space and make space. Take care of yourself. We'll probably have a break. We're definitely eating, so Diego, if you need some food, help yourself, do your thing. If you need to step out for a minute, do that. We'll just keep on moving. And we're just gonna try to have fun. We're gonna work together, so just be yourselves. You all, as I see you come in and engage, I can tell you seem to get along well. That's a good thing. Last time, remember, there's some laughter. We just had a good time together, so I expect the same tonight. You all know how to do this. I want to meet the team. I know I met 7 of you last time. I've not engaged with you, sir, yet. But we'll have it ask a different question this time. I want to just say your name, remind us how long you've been on the board. And I think it's always good for us to hear just little personal tidbits about people. So share something personal that you feel proud of and why. It can be something recent, something a while back, a career, something. Well, actually, that should be personal. Family, something you've personally accomplished. You've climbed a mountain, or something you've done that you're proud of. And then share a professional accomplishment you're proud of and why. It can be recent, it can be a while back, just whenever, so just something personal and something professional that you're proud of and why. So who'd like to go first?
I'll go first. I'd like to say, first of all, I'm taking some medication that kind of makes my throat swollen, so that's why sometimes it's hard to speak. Anyway, real strong medication. Raymond Mesa, teacher, principal, board member. I think I'm in my 19th year, and before 14 years as a teacher, 23 years as a principal, and personal accomplishment. Lots of things. I flip houses, and I'm still doing that. I go from one house to another, and today I was at 2 different houses, so I left my other glasses somewhere. I'll find them tomorrow. But anyway, I continue to work, even though, again, I'm getting up in my years. I still work, quite a bit, like leave at 8:30 in the morning, come back at 6 p.m. So work all day. It was hard to get paint off my fingers and, I was painting today. As far as professional, I'm so glad that, I'm still a TASB director. Every year, it seems like I get into different areas. I am the president of the TASB Benefits Committee. I sit on the Legislative Committee as well. So this is an important year. We get all the updates and really dig into the legislative session. And so I bring back information to my board as to what has happened, where are we with certain items that are extremely important to us, especially our area here. But I think there's still so much to do because, I was telling Dr. Rios, like advocacy, that we go to Washington or we go to the Capitol and Val Verde County Days, and sometimes we don't know what the county's doing, what the city's doing, and they don't know what we're doing. So I think there needs to be an advocacy group that either 1 or 2 members from here go with the city and county and kind of, talk about what their priorities are so we can all pull together when elected people are here so that we can bend the ear and let them know what they really need.
Alright,
Because
thank you,
it's so important.
thank you. Let's go next.
Yeah, I figured I'd go first since I was the newest guy. So I'm 8 months on the board-ish, I guess since May of last year. My name's Gabe Amadas, by the way. I was born and raised in Delaware, Texas, moved around a bit for work. Personal accomplishment, I think I've been able to keep my wife happy for the most part. It's a pretty big accomplishment, I think, personally. Or at least she tells me she's happy, I don't know, maybe she's not. Professional accomplishments, I've been fortunate enough to travel, lived in other, traveled around the US for work and lived in Canada for several years. Been awarded a Commissioner's Award when I was with CBP, and also awarded a DHS Secretary's Award for some of the work I've done with my agency.
Great, thank you. What agency were you with?
Currently with DHS INA, Intelligence Analysis.
Very good, thank you. Next.
All right, Becky.
All right, I guess it's me.
Go for it.
Everybody looks at me. Becky Chavez, and about 3 years until I have like a year left after this, and as a board member. So I've been a teacher, assistant principal, did real estate for about 10 years. And I'm just a busybody. I go back and forth between here and San Antonio because we have a home over there. So I am like balancing both ways. I keep very active in our community. I belong to certain organizations. And at my age, I still do a lot of aerobics and a lot of exercise lately. I think I'm kind of down today because I haven't done it for a month. And it just like, I need that in order to keep going. So as far as what I have accomplished or what I'm proud of is I'm just proud of being myself and of being here and doing what I have done to the best of my ability. So reading the book that you know about, and I'm in the process of doing another one. I don't know if I want it published though because it's more personal, but I still have it there. And so I'm just me. And I'm proud that I am me. And I love people. We travel a lot, so I'm just happy with who I am.
Great, thank you. That's awesome. Next.
My name's Josh Orfeld. Starting my 13th year on the board. I like long walks on the beach and the strong, soulful sounds of the Backstreet Boys. Yeah, personal accomplishment. I'm the youngest person ever elected to the school board here in Del Rio. They're almost beat me, but no. So I still hold that record for professional. I don't know. I do a lot of stuff. I'm an associate professor with the college. Really involved in this. Really involved in Lions International. So I guess the kind of the one thing in the on the volunteer side, I'm responsible for Lions International is going to bring their international convention back to Texas for the first time in 40 years, where I helped secure that. I'm proud of that.
Good. Where's it gonna be?
San Antonio.
Nice. Good job, thank you.
I'll go there. My name is Jesus Galindo. This is my third year, finishing up my third year on the board. Currently a police officer for the city of Del Rio. Personal accomplishment. Proud girl dad, 3 girls. That alone. And definitely proud of that, and the kids are becoming, that's on a personal side. Professionally, I'm the president of the Del Rio Police Officers Association. I'm also a board member of the Del Rio Southern Pacific Credit Union. And also, I really feel like this was a huge accomplishment, being on the board and being able to work with the individuals we do have in the room. Really think highly of them, and so take this very seriously, to be able to be here. So to me, that was an accomplishment, being able to be included in this group and work with them. And so hope to continue on.
Great. Thank you, Jesus.
I guess I'll go ahead. I've been on the board about 7 years, more or less. Retired after 42 years in the district as a teacher, counselor, bilingual coordinator, Head Start director, a little bit of everything. I think I'm the only one on the board that has been at every campus in the district in one way or another. Personal accomplishments. I was also on the Citizens Advisory Board for the police department for almost 20 years. So anywhere I go, as far as that is concerned, I'm always talking to police officers or community or communicating with other districts. As a matter of fact, just this week I was on the phone with Victor Morris. His wife just got superintendent at San Ysidro. So I was visiting with them over the phone. And as far as other personal accomplishment is my little grandson that's 5. He loves music, so I got him a keyboard. I love music, but I can't play anything. I can't sing, I can't do anything. But now I have to practice something so I can teach him something. So he has his own little keyboard, but I have a whole sound system at home and I have 3 guitars that don't belong to me, but they're still there. But as far as professional accomplishments, I love going to all the trainings and visiting with people and learning as we go, because we learn by communicating with others. And we also learn as far as what are you doing within your district, how does this happen, what are you doing, how are you doing it, and why are you all where you are when we are not, you know? Things of that nature, to get to communicate with other people. And unless you have that ability to do that or be willing to step out of your comfort zone and talk to people, that's not gonna happen. And I love talking to people. I can't change a lot of things, but you get a lot of information.
We do.
So.
Thank you, appreciate you sharing.
I'll go next so that I don't have to be last. Go ahead, man.
No, that's okay. I want to be last.
Gavin's Wheels, on April 30th, I will have completed 12 years as superintendent. And that's pretty neat in itself. Personal accomplishment, I tell my kids that I want to live a long life, but I tell them, but should something happen, you need to know that I already think I've lived a full life, and I'm so happy and thankful for it. There's nothing left for me to say that I wanted to accomplish personally, other than, continue to see the kids grow. But I just, when I evaluate, I just feel very blessed. The professional accomplishment, when I started in the school business, whether it be as a teacher or principal, and everywhere I went, I always felt like I was a fish out of water because I was learning and learning fast. But here over the last 18 months, it's just this sense of accomplishment because this past week I was at the midwinter, and it was weird but neat to see so many people call me by my first name. People whose name I don't know, but I've interacted with them at some point. It's nice to be invited to be on advisory boards like the one in College Station at A&M. It's nice to be to have a superintendent from another district come see what we're doing. To have all the local areas who want to start early college, high school come see what we're doing, and just recognize some of the work that we've done. So I don't feel like a fish out of water anymore. It's a pretty comfortable, it's not a comfortable feeling, that would mean I'm complacent, but it's a pretty neat feeling to have people ask you, how do you do this, how do you do that, what do you want to be on this advisory board? That feels pretty neat. It kind of feels like I'm not a fish out of water anymore.
Awesome, thank you. Good. Amy?
I'm Amy Haynes. I've been on the board, like Josh, about 13 years already. I can't believe it. I'm still in awe when I say that, because I didn't want to be here. My dad pushed me to do this, but I'm so grateful that he did because I'm proud of this accomplishment here. And this year I didn't have an opponent, so that was really, really amazing because every year I have like one or two people that drive in at the last minute. So this year Josh called and he was like, you won, you're already in, so that was really awesome. That was a good accomplishment as well. And I'm a mom, a sister, and a daughter, and I'm proud of that as well. And Josh started a new charter that I am the president of. We are the Lady Lions Educators. First group of just educators, women, all women, and I'm the president, so I'm very proud of that. My name will be in a history book somewhere someday. And so that happened over the summer. We are 40, as of yesterday, we're 47 women. And like you said earlier, teachers, educators, we get it done.
Mm-hmm.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Mm-hmm.
We make phone calls, we know somebody that can give us a hookup, so we're getting it done. So I'm pretty proud of the things that are going on. I've had a rough summer, 8 months, but I'm coming over the hill, slowly but surely. There's some light there. I'm super proud of myself because it's been a struggle, but I'm making it. I'm proud of the things that are happening.
Good, thank you. I appreciate all of you sharing. It's kind of, we don't often get to say things we're proud of, especially when we're older. We tell younger people, our kids, grandkids, students, we're proud. But we don't always get that acknowledgement ourselves. So I appreciate you kind of owning that and sharing the things you're proud of. I think it's good for all of us to hear that directly from you.
That's why I said I'm proud of myself.
You are. And this is a diverse group, and we can just tell by the interest and the experiences. This is awesome. So many of you, did I skip a slide? Okay, well this is a slide I always use in trainings, and I used it last time with you as well, because I just really believe that and this applies to any leader, whether it's a campus principal, superintendent, and school board. If you have constraints that you don't acknowledge and work through, you're keeping the district and keeping the organization from being the best it can be. This applies in all places. But this is one of my favorite quotes I always use with any team that I train, whether it be staff or board, because we have to be willing to acknowledge how we're functioning as a team and how individually we're contributing to that. I had a slide where I was gonna introduce myself, but somehow I must have blocked it out. So I'll go back and tell you just a little bit about me. You know me from last year, most of you do. I was a superintendent for 15 years in Pflugerville ISD back when they were a little smaller. I had about 15,000 students when I got there, about 20 when I left. And I worked in Fort Bend ISD, a large district in the Houston area. When I left, we had about 79,000 students there. The bulk of my career in education, a total of 19 years, was served in Fort Bend ISD. You may remember I'm actually a certified public accountant. I still hold that license today. But I served in oil and gas and audit in downtown Houston for the first 11 years of my adult life. And then I found my way to Fort Bend as the internal auditor, budget officer, chief financial officer, and then moved to Pflugerville to be deputy superintendent. And within 4 months, I was superintendent. And then I served there for 7 years and then went back to Fort Bend where I served for 8 years as superintendent. One of the reasons I like to do these trainings is because I feel like I got it right as a superintendent in regard to board superintendent relationship. And this sounds weird, especially coming from a person of color, but I feel like I always knew my role as superintendent, and that's what allowed me to really work well with school boards, because the board is the governing body, no questions asked. It was never my job as superintendent to tell them what to do or how to do. It was my job from time to time to help frame their thinking, to be a partner with them, to be an active member of the team of 8. And I'm grateful I worked with 2 really good boards in 2 districts where we had strong teams the way you have here, where you all can speak your voice, be heard, and you have a superintendent that can use his voice and you hear him. And that's how I was with my boards. And so I like working with teams like this because some struggle with that management versus governance. And so I think I always was successful in that way. That was one of my strongest areas. And that and communication is what the board always gave me the highest marks for. And so that's why I feel honored to be here to continue helping other organizations find their way and grow. Even if we grow just a little bit, it's continuous improvement. In my personal world, I'm a husband, I'm a dad of 2 adult children in their 30s, and I've got 2 grandkids with another that's going to be here within the next couple of weeks. So I am Cocoa Pops to one of them. The other one, who's still only 18 months old, is doing a good job by getting out Pop Pop. So we're going from Pop Pop to Cocoa Pops, hopefully. The other one, he's 13. I got a 13-year-old and a 19-month-old, and then 1 more to come. And maybe more, who knows? My other son's not even married yet. So who knows what's gonna happen there. But I enjoy this. I'm an executive coach as well, so I coach clients. I work with Carlos, as you probably know, but I also coach clients in industry, in banking industry, energy industry, those kind of things. So I in this season of life, it's kind of like many of you, right? I'm enjoying doing what I like to do, and I'm blessed to be able to get paid to do it. So again, it's a privilege to be with you tonight. So we wanted to spend a few minutes. You have a folder in front of you that's got the strategic plan update, and we want to talk about that as we get going. You've got a strong vision, you've got a strong mission. You've had that at least a few years, I know. But what we want to do tonight is we want to refamiliarize, we just want to look at this document. I know you had a conversation about it at your last board meeting, but just take a minute and just kind of familiarize yourself with what's in that document just on your own, and then we'll have a conversation. So as I understand it, and as I compared the document we used last year when I was here to this document, and as I had a conversation with Carlos about this, what he shared, which makes sense to me and I saw evident, is that this document really refined your focus. There's a few more aspects of it. It seems like it's a little longer maybe, but there's also, it's more refined with very clear goals and strategies that are much more tighter than they were before. But what I want to do, I want to continue kind of the theme of celebration. I love this quote, don't wait till you've reached your goal to be proud of yourself, be proud of yourself every step of the way. And I think sometimes we forget that part. We kind of beat ourselves up if we're not making progress as we think we should. But we do have to make time in life to celebrate all along the way. So as you look at this, where you've been on this journey from 2022 to now, February 25, what, in alignment with your strategic plan, what would you individually celebrate today that has been achieved according to the plan you set forth in 2022?
I think as a team, we're focused on the mission and where we're headed. I think we work well together as a team. Don't always agree, but we work well together, and whatever decision is made, we abide by it and respect each other.
Good. Anything specific, Linda, about one of the goals or strategies you all have been working toward that you would acknowledge or celebrate? Or anybody can jump in too.
I don't wanna dominate on, but anyway, I'm so proud that we have the teacher incentive allotment finally going out to teachers. And I knew that we had some outstanding teachers, so eventually we'll get more that will get a bigger amount, but they know exactly, you know, that, what the parameters are to be able to move up. And so, something to celebrate. I know that some other districts have started that, 5 years ago, but we're glad that we have in place now, and teachers are going to be getting their teacher incentive allotment.
That's a big one for sure.
Yeah, I just wanna say in reference to that, I just talked to a teacher, over the weekend, and she was really excited about the TIA. She was really, really you could tell that she was excited about the teacher line or incentive. So it is making a difference. We do have some teachers that are gonna go gung-ho to get into that.
That's good. What else?
I don't think it's necessarily something from 22, but the fact that this board and leadership team went in and in the last 13 years or so has gone in and created programs that, as Dr. Rios intimated earlier, is the envy of other districts in the state of Texas. Our CTE facility, early college high school model. Since I work at the college for Southwest Texas, whenever a area district wants to come see a ECHS model, they come there and then they walk across the street to my campus. So I get to be a part of that on two different sides as a board member and then also as a professor of the college side to show what we can get there. So I think those are some of our biggest ones: the CTE, ECHS, blended, being able to put in a new elementary with a successful bond. So those are some things.
Good, thank you.
operations. Not saying we're in the most perfect shape, but compared to seeing what some of these other districts had to do in the June 2024 timeframe, you know, this board really came together and worked with the ideas that our district leadership had and try to come to a compromise to make sure that there was gonna be some effectiveness negatively, but not to the extent that, other districts were doing. We didn't have to lay off anybody, we didn't have to cut, you know, a minute amount of things, a large amount of things. That's something to say that we did the best job at? No, right, because we had to work with what we had. But when we look at compared to seeing what other places were doing, like layoffs or just completely, I mean, cutting people, and that was one of the things here that this board said that they did not want to make sure happened. So to look at the work that the leadership team has done financially and brought back to us to try to think of a plan to continue moving forward in an upward direction as compared to we rolling back and having to dig ourselves out. I thought that was pretty good, and I mean, yeah, things had to happen, and it's unfortunate some things had to happen, right? But the mindset has always been still to try to bring some of those things back with the high-end possibility of it happening. So I think that was a pretty good, a pretty good outcome, because like anything, it could have been a lot worse. And with the work that this board did, and like I said, with Dr. Reels and his team, it didn't get as bad as it could have. And so I think that's something to definitely look forward to and say, look, you know, we've had hard times, we've gotten out of it, let's continue progressing forward. And so I thought it was a hard budget cycle, it was tough, but we were able to come out of it, not 100% the way we wanted, but could have been a lot worse.
Good, thank you.
The other area that we need to celebrate, and we do celebrate it quite a bit, we just had our parental involvement last weekend. And it was very well attended by a lot of our parents, and our guest speaker was from Laughlin Air Force Base. And we have a great community ties with Laughlin, and that's a big plus. But it was so nice to see everybody from the district coming together as a team, as a unison, to have and to set up for the parentals. And the parents were just ecstatic about it. So that's awesome to do, and it takes a lot of work to set it up and get it done.
I bet. Nice, thank you.
Is it okay to mention the other one?
Sure.
The leadership training for principals. We have a leadership residency model, and principals are getting excellent training to be better leaders at their campus through a grant.
Nice.
The other one too, Raymond, is all of the police officers that were recognized at the last board meeting. I've heard from a lot of the officers, we've never had this before. I mean, they're recognized by the people on their campus, but never having them come all together like we did here at the board. And they were just very, very thankful that, at least they were appreciated. They felt like we're appreciated, not just go to work.
Yeah, nice. Amy, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking they all said it all. It's wonderful.
Keep talking, she's thinking, keep talking, y'all.
We do so much. I'm just I mean, you know, my mind, I feel like, oh yeah, we do so much. I mean, all of us together, and like, we don't always go on, but we do so much. And like the STEM school, and I hear things about, because I have parents that their kids are there now at the STEM school, and they love it. It's just so much activity going on there, and that's such a plus to have. STEM is a plus to have. We have the campus on base. You know, we have a lot of things going for us. It's such a great district. You know, we sometimes get a lot of negative feedback, but we just keep it moving, because the good things are always shining. You can't ever tell us that we're not doing anything positive for our kids. So, I mean, but yeah, everybody said something. We have a lot of good leaders, and happy that we were able to give the teachers something first semester and second semester, because I love that. So we worked together and we were able to give them like a stipend at the beginning and a stipend the second, for the holiday. So that's what I was thinking in my brain that I should say. So the stipend was a big deal, you know. And they're very appreciative, because I have friends that teach and, you know, and they were just like, that, it makes a big difference, it does. When we do little things, the little things make the big difference. And it wasn't, it's just just a kind gesture that means the most. So, but we do a lot of things, we appreciate them, and so we have so much to offer. We have a lot of things to offer, so.
Diego, 8 months in, what are you thinking?
I saw a lot, to be honest with you. I mean, I don't know what's, I mean, going through this, right, this is obviously new to me, the strategic plan, but, you know, I saw a lot. I think one of the first things that really opened my eyes and really blew my mind, I think I told everybody during a board meeting, is the CTE facility. I mean, I think it's impressive. My son is a freshman, my daughter's a sixth grader, so I never really had a need to go into CTE or see what CTE was, or, you know, venture down that road. But when I did, and I saw everything that was happening there, and, you know, because when I was in high school here, it was, you know, we had welding behind the, you know, in the middle, yeah, in the auto shop, it was totally different. And just to see where, what it's evolved into, or where it's at now, it's impressive. Yeah, it really was, and that really was something that again, as an outsider, kind of a parent at this point, so it was probably a couple weeks into when I saw it, it really was impressive. And like Amy said, just being able to award all our staff, right, within the district with those stipends, that's a huge celebration. Yeah, there's some that say, well, you know, you could have done, you know, enjoy it. It's like you said, there's always going to be one or two naysayers, but you know, I think that's worth celebrating.
Good. Well, so the theme that I'm hearing here is, I mean, if I summarize everything I heard you say, is you have outstanding programs for kids, great opportunities that are thoughtful, intentional, to give them opportunity, expose them, and to help them grow and thrive as learners. You care about your staff, you've done good things, even when it was really hard. You came together to agree, we can't do as much as we'd like to do, but we can do this. And you did that. And then the other big theme that I heard emerge, and some of you said it directly, others said it in backwards ways, just without realizing what you were saying, is as a team, you buckle down when necessary, and you overcome, you know, even personal feelings at times to get it done. And you did that, again, during a good example several of you mentioned is this year's budget cycle. How hard it was, and we started that conversation last February, I remember. That was a big part of the conversation, is the board needing to really engage and do their part. And it sounds like, in what I'm hearing and what I've heard, is that's what you've done. You really, sometimes it's just hard, even with tears, you're having to say, I don't like this, but I know I have to do this, and we're gonna agree, and we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna do what we need to do. And that's the sign of a strong, effective team. That's what teams do. You don't just dig in and say, I'm voting no, because I want more, and I'm gonna be an outside, you know, I'm gonna join in, and I'm gonna challenge, right? And I know you all did that. You challenged the staff, your superintendent, you challenged one another, and in the end, you came through and you gave everything you could to staff and students in this community. And even what you mentioned about the parental, was it a conference or the event you had last week? You know, how I'm never gonna leave parents out, right? Because you built a strong engagement with the parents in this community, and the base, all of these things are going on, are exceedingly positive for your community. And so, and there's always more to do, right? And so we celebrate, and we have to always, now this is where it's 25, you have a strategic plan that you're looking at that ends in 27, you got a couple of years left. And sometimes finishing the race is the hardest part, because we get excited about all we've accomplished, and then we celebrate that, and then there's a few things that just kind of drift, and we never get there. You know, I always go back to scripture, the Bible when I think about, that I finished the race. I ran the race, I finished. And that's, I think all of us are in seasons of life, even if you still have younger kids at home, you're thinking of your legacy. One of you made the comment about, as your kids are developing, I don't remember which one of you it was, but you're proud of where your kids are and how they're developing in your home as with you and your spouse's parents. That's how I think you feel as I hear that coming through in its trustees. You're proud of how the kids in your district, how your students are thriving and get these opportunities, are taking advantage of them. And you want even more. And you want even better performance. You want even higher academic achievement to complement all these programs. So let's take a minute now. I'm interested in kind of hearing your thought. If you were leaving the board in 1 year, what is one aspect of that plan that you would want to ensure is completed during your remaining time on the board? One thing, you can only choose one thing. I'd like to hear what you think the most important thing is that you would put all your energy behind. If you had 1 year to get it done, and you had full control to make it happen.
Academics.
Can you be more specific?
Well, as board members, we get the paper report. We get information that students are not at the level they're supposed to be. In other words, 60-something% are passing.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like, okay, if 67% are passing, where are the other percent?
Mm-hmm.
And if my child was not in the 60% range, where are they?
Mm-hmm.
And what are we doing? And the other aspect is we hear about, like, the middle school, social studies,
Mm-hmm.
because they're not passing social studies. But yet we hear from elementary teachers saying, we don't teach social studies in elementary,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in the curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not teaching it. So it's like, what is it that needs to be put into place so that we have all students achieve
Mm-hmm.
and be at level,
Mm-hmm.
not part of it, but all of it.
Thanks for being specific. I've encompassed that as academic achievement, but you've given it a good frame of reference. That's what we need. Thank you.
So I see, just from reading this, I went through a lot of the goals, but, the first one kind of stands out to me. I think it's the first one for a reason, right? Providing a strong plan for effective use of staff, district resources, balanced budget. Because with that in place, if that goal is 100% in place, everything else behind that falls into place, like what Linda mentioned, and with students, giving the students what they need, the TIAs, bumping that up. There's just so much that goes with a balanced budget. From the construction projects, everything, all the students, all the staff, they're all gonna benefit from that one. And I just from seeing some of that one stood out, it's the first one on there, and it's probably the most important one to me. With a balanced budget, everything else falls in place.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate that.
I'm gonna go along the same lines, I was thinking the same thing, continued financial stability.
Mm-hmm.
Like Diego was saying, you have that, academics, everything's gonna all fall into place. And, he said everything, that came to mind. We've gotta be able to take care of what you have here with your financial resources and everything that you have in order to continue progression. That's what's needed nowadays, So, for me, I'm on the same line, balanced budget, continued financial transparency and stability,
Mm-hmm.
and, just continuing the job that they've been trying to accomplish and achieve, and always just giving back to the district and to the community in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. Thank you. Who else?
I think, I like, everything that says student success for number one,
Mm-hmm.
and the financial part. We also need to, I would like to see for the district to continue empowering the teachers, making them feel that, because they are
Mm-hmm.
the powerful ones where the students will succeed if the teachers are comfortable and feel success
Mhm.
and feel that they are being appreciated.
Mhm.
And I think that's one thing our district tries at all times. And also the success to be focused on, and we are, but continue on bilingual students,
Mhm.
the special needs students, or the district to say, this is a district that is empowering all. And so, I would like to see that continue and not deviate from that. Which I know it probably won't, because I think this group is trying their very best to be focused on all the needs of the district.
Mhm.
So, along with the finance and along with the student success, the outcome, I think that sometimes we need to focus on one group more than the other, just so that they get up to par with the level of everyone, and for the testing scores to, move them out of wherever they might be,
Mhm.
to
Very
feel
good.
successful.
Alrighty, thank you.
I need to say something here because, that category right there, if you were to leaving the board in 1 year, that's me. I'm leaving the board in 1 year, I'm not running again.
Mhm.
So I have 1 year left, but I've been trying to get this initiative started, and I don't know where it fits, but we managed to get a couple of things done. And I know Linda and I worked so hard to get, like Aflac insurance, for our teachers. At one time, there were 3 of us that had cancer,
Mhm.
and we're still fighting that, but anyway, I wanted to start an initiative, and I think it's called Blue Heart or something, that to get the teacher organizations to actually have fundraisers and things, for teachers that do have cancer and are not able to fund, like trips out of town, hotel stays, medication, for teachers, employees. I mean, it doesn't have to be teachers, but employees.
Mhm.
And the teacher organizations are the ones that actually do the fundraisers, and we would love to help, and join in, because it starts with maybe $5 each, but, we have, I think all of us have known teachers that have worked for our district, and all of a sudden, they come up with cancer, and then, they lose a tremendous amount of money,
Mhm.
and they're gone, and so financially, their families or spouse, or, I think the ones that have experienced, that cancer thing, some of the medication is highly expensive, super expensive, and so anything that we can do, I don't know where it fits, so.
Mhm. No, that's good. It's your vision. Thank you. Josh, Amy?
If I was leaving in May of 26, my thing would be tied to what I would want pushed is, where is it?
Which one is it?
I think there needs to be, we've come to a point in society and in our school districts where we have to have full-blown mental health counselors there on campuses. That all they handle is mental health issues, not schedules and different things like that. That's strictly the thing.
Got it.
And that's what I would want to see before I walked away from it.
Mhm.
That
Thank
would
you.
be-
And not just
I
mental
agree
health
with
counselors, Judge, but you also have your administrators that can't go into the classrooms and monitor the classroom and do their walkthroughs because they're dealing with discipline all day long.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got an observation schedule, but they can't go do it because now they have a fight that broke up, or somebody has a vape, or something happens.
Mhm.
So there's so much of that going on that it's impossible for them to take care of everything.
Mhm.
But if I was leaving out, I was thinking along the lines of Ms. Chavez, empowering the teachers, cause,
Mhm.
same page, the same mental thought, kids would be successful. Not that they're not now, but they would be more successful. If we were all aligned, if every teacher was on the same page, the same, same mental thought, same process, and sometimes it's hard, I get it, but I would love going out and I knew, hey, the teachers are lined up, curriculum's all the same across the board for each grade level. That would be awesome for me. There wouldn't be any pauses. Everybody's ready to go to the next grade, like you said. Second, they're ready for third. Everybody's on the same page, curriculum wise. Teacher, what, they're all on the same page. That's a big thing. Curriculum is a big thing. So I'd like to see that. If I was headed out, the curriculum, it'll be a smoother plan, smoother. Everybody on the same page.
All right. Anybody else want to add anything else? This is good.
I just wanna say that I feel that every day a teacher comes to school, to the classroom, and with a mentality that is okay, it's like, how is my day gonna be? Am I gonna have a challenge today? Because it's challenging many times. Or, just with that thought in mind, and it's like, the day begins smoothly, but might not end that way at the end of the month. So I think teachers are challenged every day, and they do their best, and they are succeeding. But it is a challenge many times to handle students,
It is.
in one way or another.
The students are changing.
Yes.
They have been changing. Adults are changing. I mean,
Yes.
adults need, sometimes the mental health support is for the adults as well as the students.
Oh, yes.
So I guess since this is a training, I'll interject a couple of thoughts just in response to what I heard you say, because what I'm hearing is academic achievement was a very strong theme. And then bound the financial stability to sustain it. And one of the things that I've just found that I think is very challenging for all educational systems, and it comes back to the word we just referenced, is the change. It's something as simple as 25 years ago, what did a principal do or an AP do? They showed up, they took care of some discipline, they were in classrooms, they were monitoring. But also, if you look back, if that season, accountability wasn't near the intensity that it is today. So the shift in accountability has dramatically changed the role of an educational leader, from the superintendent all the way through central office, all the way down to the campus administrators. They've got to be focused on those things. At the same time, student behavior has shifted dramatically, as you referenced. So the many of them have emotional needs, they have mental health issues that are affecting their conduct. I mean, we've all heard the stories, and I've dealt with the grievances with teachers and parents, and I've dealt with the situations as a superintendent of that 5-year-old who smacks a teacher and sends her to the hospital. And that, that's the kind of thing that if it happened, it was very rare, but those things are much more common now. And so as you've got accountability has ramped up, student needs has ramped up, social media has ramped up, kind of the constant, every little thing that goes on is very public, usually very negatively thrown out there for everybody to read and see, and that makes people, the staff feel like, am I supported or not? Am I under attack? What's going on? And money is tighter than it's ever been, because things cost more. We have to do more because all of these things, the special needs students, bilingual, all of these programs cost money, and the financial structure hasn't changed substantially in 30 years. And so this is what you're facing, and all of these things align to say, then what do we do? How do we prioritize? Because at its core, you mentioned the academic achievement. We all know, especially the administrators sitting over here and your superintendent, but many of you have been educators, you have to have a guaranteed, viable, aligned curriculum in place that's taught with fidelity, which means you have to have good monitoring and good benchmarking and do all of these things. And then you gotta have that focus from the top of the organization all the way through the classroom. I always talk about, we have to be aligned from the boardroom to the classroom. And so the board's gotta be able to say, we're directing with this goal and this strategy, and then this team's gotta execute by delivering, by putting those action items in place and monitoring them and reporting back to the board. And so all these moving pieces though, and that's what, if you go back to what I said at the very beginning, I think a couple of you weren't here yet, but it's at its core, we've got to consistently and constantly come back to, why are we here? Why do our schools exist? What is our why? And if we can constantly come back to that, then that's really what you did during the budget cycle this year. You came back to your core, why are we here? We're here for these children, we're here for these teachers, and we're gonna do everything we can for them. And so as you think about going from now to 27 and achieving these goals, there's even something as simple as having a teacher feel a security and a sense of peace that if they have a major health problem, they're supported by their organization and their colleagues in their organization. That makes people want to come to work every day. And I love the way you frame that, Becky, about their day starts a certain way, but how's it gonna end? If you're able to revisit, and I'm not giving direction, I'm just saying, these are the things we have to do as educators. You've got to think about, okay, we've staffed this same way for generations. Do we need to shift our staffing patterns a little bit somehow to put somebody on campus and then almost like a dean that deals with discipline? And that's all they do, so that the other administrators can be in classrooms taking care of the academic. There's just little things we have to think about, sometimes thinking differently. Yes?
I was just gonna say, I had a garage sale this weekend, and, talking about discipline. This parent went and she had a little boy, well, he was not little, he was husky, and I thought maybe he was like a first grader, second grader. Well, no, he was a kinder. And so you and I was dealing with some other people that were there, and then all of a sudden I turned and I see this little boy going like, and I was like a little bull, and so I just said, oh God, and I turned focusing on the person I was with. All of a sudden I see him coming, and before I turned this way, he came right and bumped, headstrong.
Into you?
Yes, into me. I turned around and I was furious. But I couldn't show it. So I was just like, and I kept it and I said, no, you need to stop. And I grabbed a little toy I had there and gave it to him. And he would just then, and I got after him a little bit. And he would look at me afterwards and he would go, like, you're mean, he would frown. And then the mother said, oh, and I said, is he in first, second grade? And she said, no, he's in kinder. And I said, kinder? And she said, and I don't know how the teachers do it, but he's terrible. It's like this whole thing. But I'm bringing a point of what many teachers come to and have to deal with.
You're exactly right.
I was furious.
So as we put all this together, because we're getting ready to transition to the next part, because what I wanted to do was to be able to kind of get you focused on the plan, or why, your why. Why are you here as a trustee? We've talked about that. What is this plan? Why is this plan important? And we need to do some work to process, is this plan the plan to finish the next 2 years? I think you have a strong sense that it's probably 90–95% there. Maybe there's a few refinements, that's for you to decide. But here's the real reason we're here, is this team has got to be hitting, it kind of comes back to this quote, this team has got to be hitting on all cylinders. Really, for the foreseeable future, certainly in the next 2 years. Because right now you're dealing with all kinds of things from the federal government, the state government, these behavior issues, all these things we're talking about, And so all the noise is gonna get really distracting if you're not careful. So our goal is to get you focused on how you, as a team of 8, are performing. Then we're gonna come back and connect that back into the strategic plan. So what I've got for you now is, we talked a lot about this last time, and you know this, so I'm really not gonna belabor it. But it's just the idea of the board role and the superintendent role. And it's the concept of management versus governance. The board is clearly the governing body. I think you all get that completely. Superintendent is the senior executive, the only person that the board hires. He is the executive leader, the manager of the district, if you will. And so it takes a great collaboration, because the board can't do anything on their own. If you don't have a superintendent that you hired, you can't run the schools legally, you can't make decisions. You can approve a budget, but you can't manage the budget. You can hire, you can appoint certain people, I don't know what your policy is here, but there's things you can hire and do, but you can't actively manage them. That's the superintendent's job. So, but the superintendent has to do everything they do with the oversight and management of the board. And that's why the team of 8 concept is so important. I had a board member one time, he was brand new. I'll never forget, well, they had just hired me, he'd been on the board about a year. And the first meeting, he goes, "We're not a team of 8, you report to us." And now that was one board member. Most of the board were very much team of 8. They liked it, but he was like, but by the time he got to the beginning of the second term, he'd seen how the relationships really work, and he settled in, and he ended up being a phenomenal board member and a great board president. He was my last board president before I retired. And so, but it really takes constant attention to the relationship, to the work. So what I've done here is, you all took the survey, and these are the survey results. What's that?
You said to take care of ourselves. I mean,
Oh, okay. Hurry back. He could have been more subtle in that. So, but what I want to do is, I just want you, while he's taking his break, if you need to take a quick break, please do. But take 5-7 minutes or so, look through the document I've just given you. Look at the questions, you've all seen these questions. Look at the results, look at what, kind of collectively, you as a team who would say, let's take this is just an individual time. If you need to step out, it's a good time to do that. But spend some time just looking at the document, and then we're gonna come back and re-engage as a team around this information. If you wanna make some notes, I would encourage you, I wrote that up here, take some notes on things that kind of make your eyes pop. Well, that's kind of interesting, I didn't expect to see that. Or, well, that didn't surprise me, I see that all the time. Does anything concern you? Or is there anything you'd like to talk about more deeply? Something you read that raises your concern that you'd like to explore more deeply? We're just taking a few minutes and looking at that and kind of making notes on the things that surprise you, don't surprise you, concerns. Does anybody need more time? Alright, so next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna partner up and just kind of grab a corner. You might wanna stand up and kind of flex a little bit unless you just wanna stay seated, but get the person next to you, get somebody across the room, just pair up and just share your reflections and discuss things you agree on, things you don't agree on, questions that come to mind. Be sure and take some notes on this because we're gonna continue this. So just try to kind of capture what you're thinking collectively as you kind of work through it. Just write it on a piece of scratch paper and be out on the back of that or something. All right, let's take a few minutes, about 10 minutes, and just kind of have a partner conversation. Linda stepped out, and she'll be right back.
Just so everybody has a partner, you and Linda, and then you and Josh. Is that okay?
Yeah,
You guys are already.
we're already.
You enjoy this while Linda gets here.
I don't have a partner yet.
Enjoy this while Linda gets here. What surprises you?
No, he is.
All over on that one. And, the middle one was 25 on SBC.
There's that strange time, gives you a condition on 68. But now when you go to bed, it's like 67 or 68, so it goes along. And then you put it down to like 65, so you get cool it down. Good.
Alright, I get chill out of the air. Then I'm like, then I'm
controversial stuff, they'd be.
Linda, you're Diego's partner.
I'm Diego's partner.
Yeah, we're sharing our.
I'm your partner.
Tell us partner, we're sharing
You
our.
were partners, that's okay.
What else can we do?
Sorry, but I'm late.
That's all right. You too? I would say too. That's why we're partners.
I was 5:30.
I thought it was a kiss. I thought it was a
Exactly.
Close my backpack.
It's up here on the screen.
Yeah.
Share your reflections and discuss things you agree on, things you don't agree on, things you'd like to explore more, and kind of take a few notes on the things you discuss.
Yes, so we ordered them. We are good at the market. Let's look at it.
Emily's been doing fine, you have not fine. So I had Maddie this morning, just tonight. I saw her today, gave some medication, and yesterday she was just
I just read it, y'all know I'm so, I'm always prepared.
And I saw her today, and she got her all cleaned up, and she was waving, and so we were on that worst end of it. Maddie was just sleeping it off. So hopefully by tomorrow, be in better shape. Emily's like, my throat's starting to hurt, you gotta go. Because hers is just more she sees it.
Diseases, you gotta have it, even when it's an illness.
No, I told her, I said, just stay home, just make your stuff. Hers are just like this. The little one, I saw her today at about 3 o'clock. She looked a little bit better. Maddie was still sleeping on the couch. That's where we put her last night, and I slept on the other couch to not have her sleep, but she sleeps with Emily sometimes. I can't get her sleep, so everybody's sleeping.
Wait, should we have to take her to the hospital?
No, not Maddie. Well,
No,
that
but maybe.
musical bed. Well, then my heart is killing me, 'cause I sleep like this on the couch.
You're gonna relate to that.
And I've tried the recliner. It's good, but I can jerk to my side.
I need it.
And then I saw Emily, she didn't text me, she didn't go to the nurse, so you're fine. She's good. They're good.
So this is where we're building the break.
Yeah, I actually tried to do that in 5 minutes,
Oh,
but it's okay. We're flexible.
How was the conference? Here Friday. So my dad's doing first thing. Yeah, I was hoping to get something. Where it's San Antonio, where we don't have insurance. So they called me at 4 o'clock today. Get them in on Friday. So I don't know what's gonna happen. She has 3 that are blocked.
so it's gonna be a whole fight.
We're gonna do a hard cath to see where they're at. We can send it. He had mentioned already bypass, so I'm thinking he wants to see if it's at 95%. Other one's at 70.
Yeah, and I
I don't feel a difference. Stop the schedule.
And that's like
Yes.
report on those conventions, so big RV.
Okay, when our last two folks come back in, we'll continue on.
So he had an abnormal stress test, abnormal EKG. So he has a bypass, it'll be after February, until Sunday, March.
Where's me? Oh, you know.
I mean, I'd be scared of it too, but somehow, is there a way to get it?
I think that takes up his heart, that thing I see off, so.
All right, we have everybody back. So what I'd like us to do now is you're gonna actually have to move a little bit more this time. Find another partner, somebody different, and share and discuss the conversation you just had. Kind of convey that conversation with them. What do you agree on? What do you disagree on? And just kind of have that conversation again, informed by your prior conversation.
Must be my bad.
I'll go to where you're at, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll go to where you're at, sure. I moved. That's my tired.
You have to roll your chair, Mr. President. Oh, you want
You can use this chair.
Yeah.
You can use this one.
I'll just roll it.
No, just come over here. No, you don't have to roll. There's a chair over here. Yeah, I'll use your chair to roll it.
Agree?
Take your purse off, okay?
Here's
Yes,
your
ma'am.
chair.
Yes, sir.
Use this chair.
It doesn't matter what you're wearing, sir, I'm sorry.
That's why I didn't tell you to take it off. You surprised by any of it?
So on that one,
And some of them, yes.
plus red service used
Number 13, that's what I
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's here, right? But not according to insurance.
We had real.
So that was my education to see. Everybody says.
No, that's, it's lost. Dead space between here and San Antonio.
I mean, we get it. It's lost.
Now, I do have a travel.
Like I said, yes.
So I could, I guess I had a conversation with one of them at home. Because he's got little kids.
And they don't come here.
So I'm not worried about them here. We saw the point of view of this side of the road. And frankly, it's kind of nice to get a little break from
Right.
considerations also right now.
Oh, yes, yes.
It's really not good, I mean, it's strong. When you leave the road, I think. I haven't felt this bad here. Maybe my aunt is
I'm pretty sure I'm trying to get about.
That's my only dog.
What's the kid goes on? Multitude.
You're right. Everybody's always on This, I guess, this was the one that I had tried to get our serious assessment. I felt relaxed, I was kind of, she's been definitely trying to do things.
Because they
Well,
got-
I'm trying to not like, it was like, it is a one or a two. Some things, you know, like, But I was surprised with the actual.
Yeah, cause of that.
And I was a bilingual teacher for years. What is it?
Because then that. Everybody's going.
Teachers to come to that too. Yeah. And it started off when we were saying that was over
Who needs more time?
So we don't.
Who needs more time, anybody? All right, we'll continue on then. Good job.
If it counts for anything, I haven't eaten one yet.
They're really good.
It's very good.
No, that's not my choice.
Tim could eat yours for you.
Oh, it's just hot in here, if I eat that.
It is not hot in here, sir. Somebody turned on the air and I had to put the sweater on. It is not hot in here.
Financial stability, put a couple of extra dollars for the AC bill. Please, Ms. Amy, put an extra $20 and turn it on here.
But you gotta let them
I
want
felt
to
it,
be
David.
at Arca,
It's
that's
cool.
all. She wants it to be
All
at
right.
Arca.
So let's think about, so tell us, somebody tell us about your conversation. What are you thinking? What does this assessment bring to mind for you? What are you thinking, feeling?
It's always a continued battle with communication,
Okay, say more.
and the fact that,
What'd you call me?
no matter how well we think we may be communicating, there's always room for more. There's always room to continue. It's hard to pinpoint exactly, but if we're looking at everything, you know, whether it's communication, you know, like we were talking about, is it, I was talking about Riz about this, okay, are we pinpointing more, is it from the board to the superintendent, is it to the superintendent, to the staff, the district, to the community? Those are all different options to really look at as far as when you're wondering where you could improve on. You could probably include, or improve in all three. There's always gonna be improvement. If you're saying that you're 100% amazing at communication, there's no way, right? There's no way. There's always room for improvement there. Looking at everything else, I mean, you can see here, a lot of people recognize the effort that one another does, and what they do. You see blue in almost everything that we have in here. So no matter what, one person may not think, somebody else thinks you're doing very well, and then it all comes together. But I think the root of all this is just continued emphasis on improving communication. Not saying it's bad now,
Oh, no.
but we're just saying just continue.
Is there a specific question or two that draws that out on communication?
I was looking at one, we were looking at, 25, and 26.
Mhm.
I was on 25 as well. Josh here.
Mhm. Well, thanks for that, it's very thorough. What else? What else y'all, any extension of that or others?
My thought on that part was where the vision and the mission, that we know the goals and stuff as a board. But we sat in on a training in San Antonio, and the vision and the mission is in every building that they go, that they attend.
And
Or
that's
if
what
you
they
go there,
base.
there's a vision and this is what, and so it's not, so the community knows it, the parents know it, whoever's showing up at those buildings, this is the vision and the mission.
And that's what they base their entire day off of.
That's exactly what he said.
Did you complete what is on that banner? Did you complete it? So if it says that you're gonna be, we're gonna be A-rated and our mission is to be that, okay. Were you that today and what you're doing? It kind of holds you accountable, but it also makes you think when somebody puts it into that perspective. Say it's a staff member, right? Or just say it's anybody. Okay, you're acting like this. Are you really acting the way this thing says we're supposed to act? And so it makes you kind of think, right? And then there's always that thought factor or that intro to communication. And so when we saw that, one of those school districts, it makes you think, it's not cliche to put that all over the place as long as you're learning how to use it as a tool, right? Because some people are saying, you're just throwing that stuff everywhere just to throw it as decoration. Well, not necessarily if you're learning how to use it as a tool to effectively communicate to your staff and to the students.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know if I picked up from what Amy said or from Mick said, but over the last 3 superintendents, myself included, everybody comes up with a banner. So when the other guy was here, he had something like, anything worth doing at all is worth doing exceptionally well, something like that. And then, Dr. Ackerman, they changed something. Do y'all remember, Scott, what Dr. Ackerman was saying was, Sandra? She had pins about it.
Team, together, one choose more.
Going for excellence.
Yeah, Team Going for Excellence, that's what it was. Okay, and then myself is, better together. But, so we all have that, and the 2 previous superintendents even put banners up, at every campus, they demanded that a banner be up. So I didn't spend money on that banner, I wanted the board to save that money for my raise. But I was just thinking about it, but we never really had a concerted effort to put that vision up in the building. I'll give you an example. I was visiting with Reno Luna, and I said, hey Reno, I love our staff development room there next to the CNI building. We have great meetings there, but we need to put up like nice pictures up of our students, stuff like that. And just right now, I thought, yeah, we can do all that, but we need to emphasize and live by our mission and our vision statement. So Sandra,
She's hiding.
well, it's just that Sandra worked with
See, it's right here,
Yeah.
you have a district vision, but so I feel like it needs to be everywhere, so
At
we're
every
all,
campus.
yes, and that we're all on the same page, and like Emilio said, are you really working towards this?
So let me interject because that's in every building at Fort Bend ISD. We had signs about that day in every lobby. We had the mission and we had the vision. But here's the other part. I'm gonna ask this. Do you all have a tagline of some sort that links to that? Like for us, our mission was Fort Bend ISD exists to inspire and equip all students to pursue futures beyond what they can imagine. And we had the tagline, inspire, equip, imagine. And that was on shirts and caps, it was on letterhead, it was everywhere. That was the logo, inspire, equip, imagine. So do you have that? Do you have a tagline that you pull out of that that's easy? And then all the senior leaders had it in their email box, all the principals. So it became not just a sign, but it became every time we spoke, every time we sent an email, we referenced it, it became part of the board, had it on their business cards, everybody was engaged in constantly espousing the mission and the vision.
I think they had like a question they would ask, right? Are you being X, Y, and Z today,
Right.
right? And then if you weren't, you had to answer as to why
Yeah.
you weren't, right? And so, that's just one thing that comes to mind when she's talking about it.
Well, it's a great conversation to have. What else?
Well, pertaining to that, recall at Lonnie Green, Linda and I had a teacher, the word, for example, leadership, just maybe not these particular mission here, but relating to that. And as the students, you know,
Every grade level
Every
came up
grade
with
level.
something related to it, and it was posted in front of their section.
and they would go, and if anything, if they're walking down the hall or whatever, and we happened to catch their attention as to something they were supposed to not be doing, we would point to that. And it's, you know, so I think visibility on words, English words does help,
It is.
and referring to them when need be, because they're right there.
Yeah, because we reached the point, you're making me remember, we actually did posters that we gave to every teacher to put in their classroom with a mission and a vision. And over time, what we came to realize is even kids were talking about the mission statement. Because their teachers were, but that's when I said earlier, aligned from the boardroom to the classroom. That's what happens when the board is using the language in the boardroom. And this kind of ties into one of the things in here I'm gonna talk about in a minute. And if you all don't bring it up, it's, when you approve items, are you saying this aligns, we're approving this because it aligns with our mission and here's how?
And since the grade level teachers were in each grade level, it actually became a little competitive, and they enjoyed it, but they were trying to excel. Oh, mine is,
Yeah,
better than the other. So,
like always, bigger and bigger.
yeah.
What else stood out here?
The other one was number 13.
Yes, I know that.
We were just discussing well-balanced curriculum resulting in improved student learning.
So I marked that as something that, it didn't surprise me, because there's a couple of things that it could attribute, but, so I'm wondering exactly what it means. Or is it just because, we had an F-rated campus last year and we didn't hit, the high B like we should be or higher? So I was kind of wondering exactly what all does it encompass in that?
Which one was it?
Number 13?
13.
So let's take this one apart. Let's talk about, this is one I had picked, I created a slide, because it was the one that had the most diversity of responses. And so that told me there was either some misalignment in how you all are seeing it, some misunderstanding, or it's just, you need to do a better job and you need to, have the conversation about how we're gonna get along. So as you responded to the question and as you talked about that tonight, what was the conversation, what were you thinking, what was the conversations around this one?
To begin with, there's a shortage of teachers, and so when you're talking about qualified, certified, bilingual ESL teachers, it's hard to find those individuals. And so they might be certified, but they're not actually in bilingual classrooms. They prefer not to teach a bilingual because of the different levels of students in the classroom. And then the other thing is, it's a lot harder to find resources. I remember going to department meetings and they would tell me, we don't have any resources for science and for bilingual, for example. And I would say, they are bilingual, science related materials. Perhaps they haven't been to a conference where there's exhibits and So anyway, I started doing a bunch of catalogs and they started buying bilingual resources that they didn't know that existed. But, you know, that's one thing. The other thing is, cause it's kind of strange, cause both of us, Josh and myself, had both, it's all over the place, like, when you see the pie chart there, 13 and then 25, it's the same way. But this one, to me, you know, I thought right away, like, okay, we were both serving as bilingual teachers, and again, the resources are limited, the teachers are different levels of, I guess, getting their certifications, and sometimes they leave and they have a teacher that starts all over with their bilingual certification, you know, at the lower level, but so more and more we're losing those bilingual experienced teachers because, you know, either the teacher incentive a lot or the evaluations, because it's, Linda, you were a bilingual teacher, you know, you get evaluated and sometimes all your students don't answer, so you don't get that extra EQ or whatever. It's a difficult job for bilingual teachers because there's so many different levels of the students where they're at. And that's still, you know, when you look at the scores, you see that they're not up to where they should be compared to the other subgroups.
What else around this one? I know it sounds like everybody kind of cued into it a little bit. What other thoughts came to mind? What else did you discuss?
Well, one of the things that Dr. Rios and I were talking about, or I mentioned it when we were grouped together, was that do we have time? I mean, there's always time depending on how you use it. I mean, time is, you only have so many hours, but how do you manage it? Where, let's take for example, a third grade team leader, not necessarily all, but the third grade team leader from every campus meet together one day a week and discuss whatever area you all are low in, what are you doing at your campus, what are you doing at your campus, so there's an alignment between all of them. That's one of the things that we discuss. It's easy to do it on your campus, because you can bring the first, second, all the way through fifth grade and talk about an alignment between, let's say, science, from kinder to fifth, but what about the other kids?
We have a horizontal one, yeah.
Dr. Priya, in looking at the question, there's 3 parts on there that the board does, but it sounds like 13 and 25 go together because the board adopts goals. We have done that. You approve student performance objectives every year, and there's not much in establishing policies of the well-balanced curriculum, but you do approve anytime we have new curriculum or new classes, or grade point average policies that push students in one way or another. So I think that in that piece, at least that's described there, I think that you do the job. I just think that we don't promote that that higher standard. I was telling the principals at Friday's meeting that the most important piece of ensuring student growth is one, to have a well-balanced aligned curriculum, so the assessments are important. But the second part that's equally important is having the teachers have high standards for the students. And so we gotta implement the curriculum that we have, and we gotta have high standards. The teachers have to, believe that if they push every student to learn at higher levels, they will. So implement the curriculum and don't water it down. So that's part of what we have to do to improve student outcomes. But in that area, I think that what's left to do with that is just promote it more from the board and the superintendent and everybody else on the team. And I think that goes to 25 of how we live our vision and our mission. So I really think 13 and 25 go together. That's my thought.
You know, what comes to mind, there's two things that come to mind as I listen to you. And I think about, it is probably the easiest part of what you just described, is setting high standards for teachers and asking teachers to have high standards for all children. And but then it gets more complex. It's hard to have a boardroom conversation that reflects high standards and and have honest conversation about the, what'd you say, 67% that passed, and well, earlier when we were talking, just for example, right?
Exactly.
It's, so how do you present in the boardroom, and the board has a healthy, safe conversation that acknowledges, okay, so we went from 64 to 67, that is progress, and we still wanna get to 100, where we wanna stay on that road. How does the board have that conversation and communicate high standards without feeling like they're defeating the staff for all the effort they're putting in? Because the teachers, many of them have very high expectations, and they're willing to do whatever it takes, even in many cases sacrificing their own children, families, and marriage to make it happen for the kids they serve. And they have behavior problems and social emotional problems and mental health problems that they just get so beat down. So there's kind of a two-pronged piece of how does the board have the conversation and communicate these things in a way that says we want to always be continuously improving. We value everything you're doing. We want to put supports in place so that that behavior issue is not impeding the progress of 23 kids in the room. We need to do everything we can so the teacher can stay focused on the 22 that are doing what they need to do, and we want to take care of that kid who obviously has a special need, something unique to help them be taken care of. And at the same time, have accountability for the teachers and, frankly, for some administrators, APs and principals who don't have high expectations. You know, who use, I always say, if anybody says they use the "our kid" language, our kids can't, or our kids' parents, that's always a red flag to me. And how do you have that conversation safely that's supportive, but also very clear that we are here for all kids, and we will do what we need to do for all kids. So what does that look like to you as a board to have that conversation? Are you able to do that in a boardroom without, and to express the high expectations, high standard, and people still feel like they support us? And I don't know, I mean that's a legitimate question.
I think we can, but we have to have the support. I mean, you know, we can say we want you to, everybody, we have to teach high, we have to do this, but then, where are we gonna be? Are we gonna be there to support that and give them what they need to do that? So, yes, we can have a conversation, but what are we gonna do on our part to make sure it's implemented and we've given them all of what they need?
And to be,
Because, I mean, I listened to what you said, and it's, you know, we want them to be here, we want them to teach, but then there's the issues they have. So how are we going to, we know you have this, we know what's going on in your classroom, right? But then how do we come in and support that? Where are we, I mean, I guess I'm asking, how are we gonna support that?
Well, so first I would answer that by saying, first of all, you have to acknowledge that sometimes what they need is not what they want. I mean, because sometimes what they want is, I just want these kids out of my room.
Right.
And that's not viable. What they need is the training to be able to have that exemplary classroom management so they can manage, and I'm sure you all talk about tier 1 instruction, tier 2 instruction, and then you've got to have clear, strong tier 3 support. But what I found, again, I'm just being candid with you based on teachers I've worked with, even some of my best teachers, they did not want to really engage in tier 1 behavior management. They wanted the kid just gone. They want the principal to take him to the office, go to the office, get out of my room, but that kid's never going to be successful. So what they want is not what they need. What they need is the ability to have the confidence to deal with that classroom of kids when that one kid acts up, and okay, I'm going to do tier 1, I'm going to keep bringing them back into line, and then if they need extra help, there's a tier 2 system of support for them that maybe the AP or a counselor, somebody has to help a little bit more to wrap around that baby. But then there's the tier 3, and again, I'm not prescribing what this looks like. It's the concept of that's what they need. And so, but those are hard conversations sometimes for teachers because they really just want to teach. And that's what they need to be able to do, but that's not the reality in today's world. And you can't run a school if you pull every behavior problem out of every classroom.
One of the things I was thinking about, right now, we have a curriculum committee of individuals that are writing our exams to decide on which ELA or math curriculum, because the state is obviously pushing the high quality curriculums. So before jumping into anything, let's put a committee of the teachers, and these are teachers who have, whose students have performed the best, and they don't necessarily have the kids with economic resources. So, that group of teachers is gonna recommend a curriculum for ELA, for example, because our teachers love the K-1, 2 ELA curriculum, but not so much the 3, 4, 5 ELA curriculum. The math curriculum, they see that where they need a need, but it's not there. But the problem with what the teachers need, so we have to recognize that our teachers do not, by and large at the elementary level, don't have a strong math background. So that some of the more effective curriculums require them to do a lot of work in planning and preparing because it's not laid out to them step by step. But they don't want that. So they don't want to develop their own math knowledge. They want something that's canned that's going to work. Well, something that's canned isn't going to work because you might as well put the kid in front of a computer. And what's going to work is something that forces the teachers to get better. But the teachers that don't need that are going to rebel because they're saying, I don't want that. My kids are already performing at this level. The teachers that definitely need to grow in math, well, they're definitely not going to like that because that requires a lot more work on their part. So that's a difficult piece about giving them what they need, giving them what they want, and then how do we all together agree on that? Like, I'll be the first to admit, okay, the ELA curriculum probably needs to be strengthened, and I think by and large all the teachers agree on it. The math curriculum, that's always been our Achilles. So how do we develop teachers at the same time that we provide the right curriculum? And that's just been the hardest to select.
So that's a great example though, because what I want to do is tie this up to the board role all the way through, right? So if the board, let me frame it as a question. When is the last time you made any policy revision to your policy around learning, curriculum, any of those things, bilingual instruction, any of those things? When's the last time you did any policy review or revision of those policies?
Really hasn't come up, Dr. Peters. We align it with what TASB rolls out, and the only thing that's rolled out in terms of curriculum here in the last couple of years has been the social studies curriculum for Mexican American history and Black American history. That was probably 3 years ago. And really, I don't remember TASB rolling out any of the policies. But for us, looking internally at policies, unless Sandra's here, unless Sandra can correct, because I don't think it's happening.
Well, I asked that because this, I mean, this tie, I'm tying all this together. You established policies that provide a well-balanced curriculum. Well, TASB's policies, and again, forgive, I don't wanna be out of line, but you invited me here, so I'll say what I'm thinking. TASB's policies are well-written on a broad, generic basis to meet the needs of many districts. But your district is your district, and it's unique. You have unique needs where you're located, the students you serve, the makeup of your demographic community, and you may need to look at those policies. For example, bilingual is a great example. I've worked with boards who worked with the staff to put in policy the type of bilingual programming we were gonna deliver our students, because there's multiple types. And there are some that are research proven to be the most effective, and some are not. And so you need to, you as a board, you need to be informed enough about these things, like bilingual instruction, to be able to partner as a team of 8 and with your senior staff to say, this is what we support, and this is what we're gonna do, and we're gonna put the money behind it. To your point, Amy, we're gonna put the money behind it. Whatever we need to do to recruit the teachers, to train the teachers, have, incentivize bilingual teachers to come to our district, this is what we're gonna do. Because the research and the practice around these areas, it shifts and changes. And TASB can't be detailed enough in those policies to be able to cover every district in the large state of Texas. So it's something that's simple, gifted and talented, special education. What do you believe about that in your district? And that's what, so when this talks about you provide the policies, and well, then to come back to your point, Carlos, so then you have a policy that says we're gonna have an aligned scope and sequence. Because what you're talking about the curriculum elements. So if you design the scope and sequence that's aligned with TEKS, and that's well developed, and you probably have that, but then it comes to you're providing resources to support that, because curriculum is not, the curriculum resources is not the district scope, is not the district curriculum, and everyone in education, you know that. But so often what happens is, well, we're buying this curriculum, and that's our curriculum. And it's great, I found when we did this in my other district, we built it all out, and then we populated it with a robust curriculum resources, so that a first-year teacher, they didn't even have to work that hard to do their lesson planning, because everything was in our system, the content management system, and it was easy to help them learn. Whereas the very experienced teachers, they may not have chosen to do that because they had so many things, they've been doing it so long as they were aligned, then, because we wanted them to stay in alignment. But we trusted, that's where you let the teacher be the teacher, right? Because you don't want to micromanage and say, this is what you have to teach on this day. But the new teachers need a lot more constraint and guidelines to get their skill sets up. But then as teachers are experienced, then they can go pick other things out as long as they're aligned to do their magic in the classroom. But at the board level though, it's writing policies around what you believe around these types of programmings and what this looks like. And I think that's where I see some of the gap here is I think, because you approve the goals, like you mentioned, that's easy, that's the easy part, this is what we're gonna do. But then you have to have the hard conversation about student performance objectives. I've seen some districts, they do 100%. But everybody knows, no district is ever gonna get to 100%. You're just not. And so you have to figure out what is a realistic, aspirational goal that's a SMART goal almost, that's really achievable. If we really work hard, that doesn't defeat staff thinking we're never gonna get there. But then, like you keep saying, put the resource behind it to say, we're here for you. We're gonna set the goal, and we're gonna give you what you need to get there. And that's what I see in this number 13, is the policy And then sometimes, because when you put it in policy, see, this is as a superintendent, I like my board putting it in policy, because then I could say, I'm asking for this because you're holding me accountable for this. So if you're gonna hold me accountable, then you have to approve this resource. Because you trust me as your superintendent to be able to achieve what you said you want achieved. And I'm telling you, me and my staff, we've done our work now, and we're recommending this approach, so I need you to give me the resources to make it happen.
So, I have a question, Dr. So for example, on, one of our goals, the goal for highly effective instruction, there's some strategies there that really are more like objectives to support the goal. So is that like adopting policy, like when the board adopts this document, is that equivalent to policy or along the same lines?
Well, I would say no, and this, let me look at it with you, which one are you looking at?
So for example, under, on the first page, highly effective instruction. And then the goal is by 2027, 100% of SFDR students will meet or exceed grade level standards. So then if you look at the strategies, particularly as we look at strategy 2 and 3, getting the teachers to focus on data management was a really exciting thing at first, but then it's like, okay, we're gonna water it down and we're gonna do this, this, and this. So then I personally, because I think it's huge in promoting student growth, I went and I visited every single data wall, and I put assistant principals, and even teachers on the spot. So if we agreed to do this, now you're gonna do it. And then, yeah, I felt bad because you always wanna be kind, and sometimes you're not perceived as kind, but you went the next couple of weeks, and it's, you know, the principals knew, hey, I wasn't playing. And every time we go now, we see a good focus on data, we see good movement, but it took them understanding, hey, this isn't an option. And I'm just wondering, I don't wanna put the board on the spot, but it is easier to say, no, as a district, from the board to the principal to the teacher, we agreed we were gonna do these things. So I'm just wondering if this carries the weight of policy.
So my direct answer is, it's always been my understanding as a superintendent that anything adopted by the board holds the weight of policy. So if you approve this with strategies, and this is what the board says, this is our lever, this is the goal, these are the strategies, you have now said this is our policy, basically. You know, I've worked with boards that would take this language and they would write it into policy. Because this language, these things, this supersedes a 5-year goal. These are practices that need to be in place as a foundation, no matter what. But to your specific question, there may become a time where you may wanna look at policy differently and add some of this, but for now, if the board approves this, then based on my learning and understanding and practice, then if you say, we're raising our hands to this, then it's got the weight of policy, and the superintendent says, this is what we're doing. Make it happen, staff. Because what you're describing, and that's a great example of again, boardroom to classroom. The board, you put a lot of work, and Carlos put a lot of work into crafting these things, and I know his team sure did, because this is what we believe we need to be doing. But then that also means, once this is approved, then he's obligated as the manager, to kind of come back to that concept, to now have the action plan to make it happen. And then that's where he's gotta come to you on an annual basis and say, okay, this is the goal, we want 100% by 2027, so by end of 25, it should be here, end of 26, it should be here, and by 27, it should be here. And that's for you all to agree on what the increment would be year over year to get there, but then that becomes his evaluation measure as well. Are we making the progress, and is he being held accountable for the progress? And then he goes to the through his staff, to the people who oversee principals, and says, okay, every campus, We gotta set our goals to get to 100%. And they're all gonna be on different places depending on where they start. But that's, you see how it flows, right? You're holding him accountable, now he's holding the principals accountable. And what my practice was always to say, cause you got the central office staff too, right? You got all the CNI people who support that, the SPED, bilingual, all those teams that support them. And to really keep everyone in alignment, we made them do departmental plans and set their own goals on how they were gonna be pushing in to support. Because at the end, it's the campuses that are making it happen. But they need the support of the experts in central office who can be that supporting tier for them to help them to scaffold around behavioral issues, mental health issues, special education issues. That's what central office is there for. It's not to tell them what to do specifically, but it's to wrap around and say, let us help you solve these problems. Let us help you here's some tools, here's some training, here's some resources that we can support you with. You tell us what your challenges are, and we're here to support you. So what does that feel like? What are you thinking?
Policy is the way to go.
I think that in my own growth, when I first became superintendent, I wanted to find that silver bullet curriculum that was able to cover everything. So I was more about, okay, but this district is using this curriculum and it's working, so that's what we're gonna use. So that's not the way to go about it, because that silver bullet curriculum, if it's not implemented appropriately, it's not gonna work. So kinda like what you said, you let the teacher be a teacher, so I'm big on committees to select the curriculum. I'm okay, look, you wanna change the reading curriculum? Y'all selected it 8 years ago, but if you wanna switch to a different textbook, I'm good with it. As long as you do it this way, as long as you meet this YAG, this instructional document, follow the data this way, provide the interventions and deliver it this way, I'm okay. So in my own growth, that's what I realized. You know, the curriculum is gonna, if it's approved by the state, it's gonna meet these expectations. Or not these, but it's gonna meet the prescribed curriculum. But we can't argue about how we're gonna implement it, because if you don't do tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 instruction all within the same period, it's not gonna work. Well, at least tier 1 and tier 2, tier 3 is up to you. So I get it. So I'm all about teachers. Okay, you all pick the curriculum, we'll go with it. You pick the resource, we'll go with it. But it's gotta be engaged in this manner here.
Well, what I hear you describing, and again, this is two superintendents having a conversation, but I want you to hear the board's role in this. Because ultimately what the board's role is, and even the superintendent and chief's role, is to set the non-negotiables. We will teach this scope and sequence, we will. That's not negotiable. We will prescribe to you teachers what you're going to teach. Because that comes from the state. We've got the TEKS. We must teach the TEKS without a question. And so with the way I always work with my teachers, it's very similar to what you're describing, is I'm gonna prescribe the what all day long, and it's not negotiable. And principals have got to be held accountable, and there has to be monitoring tools in place to make sure it's being taught. The how is what gives life to teachers. Because I'm not gonna tell you, you have to read this and be in this place on this day, and you gotta use this specific resource. So I'm gonna tell you the what is prescribed, the how you do it, and the result, but then you're gonna be measured on the results you get, right? That's the accountability measure. Go for it, you do it, but then you create a culture that it's safe to take risks. Where if they try something big and bold to really get an impact, and it just doesn't go like they hoped, and they didn't get the results, okay, you tried, we appreciate the effort, let's learn from it, and let's go after it again. I'm not gonna fire you, I'm not gonna beat you up, I'm not gonna put you down and diminish you because you went for it and you tried in a big way. We've all gotta take risks, and you want teachers to take risks to reach those kids. And you have to have a system to support them taking risks. But they have to be able to land and fail forward. That's how they're gonna finally get to the big win, is if they fail a few times. And principals need to be allowed to take risks. If they wanna try a schedule that's really different, and they can show you how and why and all the rationale, and you say, okay, you do it for the next 6 weeks, or do it for the next 9 weeks, let's give it a go. And let's see how it goes. But see, I'm not describing, if any of you work in business, or you're married or in relationships with people, this is no different than business practice. You do not have the CEO or the board of the corporate entity micromanaging day to day what's going on the sales force. They set the goal, the board sets the goal for that CEO, and if they don't earn enough, then they bring in a new CEO. But they don't change the goal, and the CEO then they're not down telling the salespeople, you needed this and you needed that. They're saying, we hired you because you're really good at what you do. Now here's the quota, here's what you're expected to get for this quarter, make it happen. And then they're held accountable for that. And if it can't happen, we all know salespeople who don't meet their quota, and there's understanding because the market shifted, interest rates went up or down, there's all kinds of things, and sometimes they get it and sometimes they don't. But the goal is to always get there when you can and as close as you can. And that's what we're asking the teachers all day, every day, is to bring your best, take a risk, teach those kids, and teach them what we're asking you to teach them, and do it the way your expertise tells you to do it in the best way for what those kids need. But it's not easy, because it feels real soft and mushy. But it's really, at its core, it's having systems in place to support, again, from the boardroom to the classroom, to support that. So board members, we've been talking a lot. I'd like to hear what you're thinking about all this.
We're listening.
But what's your role in this? Because you've got 2 years to get to this goal, to achieve this goal, and then there's gonna be another plan. You're gonna have to put together another plan together. And based on some of your tenure on this board, I expect you're gonna be here for the long haul. So, I mean, kind of, where have you been and where are you going? What are you thinking about all this?
You know, to be honest, I'm not thinking that far out into 27. I'm more concerned about what, and this is being recorded, the people in Austin are gonna do. That's my main worry right now. So I'm not putting a whole lot of worry into 27 right now. I'm more worried about keeping the district afloat if we get screwed by the legislature again.
How many kids do y'all have in the district right now?
9,700.
How many?
9,700.
But Josh, those 9,700, and the teachers that serve them are counting on you to care about that as much as you care about what's happening in Austin.
You would think so.
What do you mean?
I don't necessarily think that everybody, the 1,000 employees, are looking to us to ensure that we're going in and making the curriculum decisions and different things like that. Because there's a certain percentage that that's all it is.
No, that's always gonna be the case, absolutely. Yeah. but I've found, I mean, you're always gonna have that percentage. But I've also found when you set the expectations and put the systems in place and execute with fidelity, with accountability, those people will begin to realize, I can't, I've gotta change or I've gotta leave. And I know that's not, that in a district that was located where you are, it's hard to recruit good teachers. But you still, the kids, the teachers you have, you've gotta hold them accountable for performing at high levels. You can't let them get away. Your kids can't let you can't on behalf of the kids let them get away with showing up and phoning it in just to get their paycheck.
But at the end of the day, I wanna say that over 90% of our teachers care about their students. They care about being successful. And exactly what you mentioned, when I was assigned at one campus because they had been cited for science, and we had to turn the whole campus around. It was a matter of, I'm not gonna tell you how to teach it. This is what we're going to do. How you do it, I don't care, you stand on your head, just get it done. And I will tell you that even the bilingual students passed everything in science. And all I told them, you pass your science, I'll give you some time so you can go play baseball. And they, we don't wanna play baseball, we wanna play soccer. Okay, no matter. But there was a difference, because as an administrator on that campus, I would open up the school at 7 in the morning. I had 40 kids that would come in and just work on science in the library from 7 to 8 o'clock. So I had to set the rules, yes, but what are my expectations for you, what I'm gonna be doing too. I will help you get there, but once the kids are in your classroom, they're yours. So,
This is one area that needs the most attention, bilingual. And, you know, like in Let's Start, for example, they do the funding and they say you have to follow a research-based curriculum. You know, one that has been proven to be the best. Well, we're not well versed with what is available out there for bilingual instruction. You know, from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. I don't know what's available out there that's the best curriculum. Now, we have quite a number of bilingual students here compared to other districts, San Antonio or beyond. Maybe Fort Worth, Dallas might have, you know, the same number that we have percentage-wise. But I don't think we're well versed about what is available out there. And it's a research-based bilingual curriculum.
And that's why I like what you just said, because it to me reinforces the significance of the team of 8 concept. Because some of you in this room have been educators and you've got good knowledge around that, but you were an educator and you've been out a while. And that's all okay, because you've got a superintendent that you trust, and he's got a staff that he puts a lot of trust in. And that's what one of the most important things he brings to the team of 8 is that expertise to say, board, we're recommending this curricula because we've done our research and it checks all these boxes. See, you can tell them what boxes to check. Where has it been proven? You know, where has it been successful? Where is it research based? Show me that evidence. So that's your accountability for him, because they're gonna do their work and bring that in, and then he'll bring it to you for approval. And you don't have to be the expert in it. You just have to be able to know, I know enough to know what I'm looking for, generally speaking. But that's why this team of 8 is so critical, because if you can't trust him to do that, then that's a problem. And that's some districts, they have that break in the board and superintendent where they feel like they've got to get down in the weeds and be all knowledgeable about all of it because they don't believe that their superintendent is bringing them the best, that they're making the effort to do that. But you don't have that problem here. And you've got strong, caring leaders to support him and the campuses who want to bring the very best.
No, I think we all want improvement when we look at, sorry, my throat's getting, When we look at the reports that we get, which we're gonna get next month, is bilingual is always at the very bottom, as far as a subgroup. But, you know, we all want the best for our kids, and we have great superintendent, great staff, support staff, that, yeah, we trust that we can find something better, because right now, it's in need of some attention as far as improving.
But it's like you mentioned, there's different programs out there, one way immersion, two way, dual language, there's different ways. And along the same lines, like Josh mentioned, we don't know what the government's going to do. We don't know if the funding's gonna be there. And then we're faced with, if they don't fund it, what are we gonna do if we're faced with finances like we were last year? So then we have to look at different issues. But that doesn't alleviate us from doing the best that we can for our kids. I know we still worry about the governor's decision and,
It's always gonna be there.
yeah, you know, unfortunately. I think once we can say, hey, we have this money, everything would be a lot easier to deal with. But right now, it's a combination of both. And I know that we have teachers out there, I just wanna get a higher salary, you know, and we all know that they're the lowest paid everywhere. But in the meantime, what are we gonna do, let kids just not succeed?
Yeah, well, and that's your decision, right? I mean, that's, you know, it's not uncommon. I mean, my board would often ask me to bring them 3 budget scenarios. They would wanna know, okay, if we don't get a single penny, what's it gonna look like next year? And if we get this amount, what's it gonna look like? And you all probably do that too. But that's, and so you put alternative plans in place so that when you know, you know. But you still go to the core of what are the best practices and what do we need to do. You know, you kind of you have to just prioritize. And those are that's when it gets really hard, when you're down, you're cutting at the bone level at times. But that comes back to, you know, what you've had to do this year with the budget. So, all right, so what else? I mean, we got a few minutes left. The goal was to really talk about, so let's kind of pivot the conversation a little bit. Based on this conversation, what are you thinking? I need everybody to contribute to this question. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? Because there's work to be done. The staff is gonna do their work and they're gonna bring it to you in the very near future with plans looking forward for the next couple of years, budgeting, and I know they're gonna want you to consider this strategic plan. So when I come back in a month, I need to kind of know where you're at so I can kind of plan what we need to work on next time. So give me some insight into what you're thinking.
We're gonna get the taper report, and I know that that's gonna be a vote again.
Bilingual?
Yes.
Yes.
So is it bilingual? Let me ask you the question. You got the strategic document in front of you. Is bilingual addressed in that adequately to address that concern?
I think if you look at the district-wide systems of strong data analysis practices, if you're looking at the data, you're talking about all of the data, so bilingual would be addressed in there. Your, speds would be addressed in there. Your social studies at the 8th grade would be addressed in there, because you're looking at the total data in the taper report.
Could be strategy 3.
And I will tell you, I mean, Carlos mentioned this earlier, data analysis is critical. And conversation around the data, and teachers looking at the data, and principals, and being accountable for having conversations and changing. This is, I think the biggest gap I've seen in education is that you may talk about the data, but are teachers addressing the data in their classrooms? Because what we often find, and you, those who've been in the classroom, you know this, we get through unit 1, we go to unit 2, we go to unit 3. Is your curriculum designed in such a way that it gives space for the spiraling and the intervention that's needed for that child who's still hung up on unit 1 when you moved on to level unit 2? Or do you have practices in place to look at the data so that as you're transitioning through the curriculum over the year, you're not leaving kids behind with gaps because you're just moving forward and not assuring that the tier 1 instruction was delivered and not just delivered, but learned. Because because it happens where I taught it. Well, did they get it? I mean, that's the heart. I'm sure you're familiar with the professional learning communities. That's the heart of that. What do we want them to know? What are we gonna do if they already know it? And what are we gonna do if they don't know it? If they didn't learn it, what are we gonna do about it? It's not just, we're just gonna teach it and just keep moving through the year. We've gotta ensure learning is taking place. So what else? What else are you thinking?
I think innovation needs a huge overhaul of work.
Same, Lauren?
Innovation,
Mm-hmm.
that whole one about by 27, because when you look at all the data, everything is 90%, or it's 20% accomplished, or has milestone, I have a long way to go there,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to some of the others that are already 60, 80, 100%. Focusing on innovation for new tech, which we're expanding this coming school year.
Mm-hmm.
Professional development and new tech and STEM. There's a lot of that has to happen this spring because we're rolling out, or attempting to roll out a much larger cohort for new tech in August of 25. Professional development for elementary and science. Middle school, it supports STEM, tied in and aligned to the TEAS. There's just, all the others are, for the most part, are, they look relatively good. So you get that one, I've just got a lot of gray on it.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for Dr. Rios regarding what Josh just mentioned with innovation. When I look at strategy 1 under that, you have critical, creative thinkers, problem solvers, collaboration. Isn't that all part of GT right now as well? So if we're implementing creative thinkers and problem solvers starting in elementary with GT, doesn't that just, or should it not flow into the innovation that we're looking at for the new tech middle school?
It does, except that, the purpose of new tech is, not to just serve GT students, because as we get into the secondary level, the only way we served GT students before is through advanced classes.
Right.
So the idea of new tech is to provide that innovation for kids that want to go learn in that manner, but not just GT students.
Correct, but the GT would be like a benchmark for them or a stepping stone for them? That's what I'm thinking.
It would definitely be a pathway,
There you go.
but not exclusive for just
Right.
GT kids.
No, I'm not saying exclusive for GT kids, I'm just saying that GT kids should already have some of these skills in place,
Oh,
that if they wanna be, at the New Tech Middle School, they already have some of that foundation. I guess that's the better word, a foundation towards it, like a stepping stone it is, so.
I think that, the last year for sure, the board has been just knee-deep in difficult decisions. The budget was one of them, so I hear y'all when you talk about, what's gonna happen at the legislature. And I get it, I think we're all on pins and needles of it, on what's gonna happen. But I also know that if we're gonna get through with, we're either gonna be better off, and we're gonna be thankful for it, or we're not gonna be better off, but we're still gonna make it work. And I think that you all have had enough practice, at making it work, because we've had to do different things. But the difficult conversation for all of us is about student learning, just because it involves so many people. And when it comes to budget, the 8 of us are gonna make it work, because we're gonna do all the work, and we've done that over and over every year. Whether we talk about appropriate compensation or different pay scales, you've had that sort of practice. And you're probably, compared to other board members, you're probably pretty strong at it because of the process that we've used. But in terms of moving the district forward, obviously, this indicator is hard to talk about because it involves being cheesy here, but moving people's cheese sometimes. That's not necessarily our intention to create discomfort, but that's really what it ends up being. But we are a teaching and learning institution, so we have to collectively figure out how we move everybody forward. I think that having to reduce a lot of the CNI staff, principals and assistant principals, we did. Wasn't comfortable at first, but I can tell you that the focus that we've had this year is way above the focus that we've had in previous years. Because we said, this is what the staff that we have, so how are we gonna move learning forward? We're gonna move learning forward by having, continue the planning, have more rigorous assessments of the curriculum, and reflect more on the data. And we haven't talked too much about the curriculum. We're starting to now, but that's been our focus, and it's just nice to go to every campus and during planning, hear them talk about data or have them reflect with the interventions. And it's something that we need to continue, and then add more things. I gotta give you an example. The bilingual data that we reviewed at the principal's meeting on Friday. We said, okay, this is how the federal government grades us on bilingual. And to be able to ask the principals, okay, in this indicator, which kids are involved in that indicator? And most of us didn't know that there's an indicator that says, okay, if you're a bilingual student, but you're not with a ESL or bilingual teacher, then that's all we're looking at. That's this group here. So just because they're not with a bilingual teacher, you're still responsible for those interventions. So you gotta go find them. And not one of the principals knew that. Now granted, I didn't know it either. None of us did. I think, we asked Karen to go look at every indicator. On this other indicator, it's just people that are certified bilingual teachers. And so they had different indicators for every group, and having the principals understand that was a huge aha. And it drives how we work with students, how we intervene with them. And that was pretty important. We found out that at the middle school level, if we have more middle school teachers certified in ESL, English, ELA ESL, then we won't have to worry about that one indicator. So then our discussion with the principal was, it's nice to have, teams of science and social studies teachers, to get certified in ESL, but really, we should be putting all our eggs, because we don't have very many eggs, in the one basket to get ELA teachers certified, so that we don't have to worry about that indicator. So it's great chasing after the math teacher for the sheltered instruction, but really, we have to take it in steps. First, let's go after the English teachers. How do we incentivize them? How do we support them? How do we make it real for them, for them to understand this piece? So it was just a whole lot of ahas, and that's what we need to continue to do. But it's just, we gotta make sure that we're all, pushing that, so that next month or in July, we say, hey, we wanna incentivize ESL teachers because our kids need that resource. We wanna incentivize following teachers, so you've done a $4,000 stipend. So maybe just to target that one group, maybe it has to be a little bit more, because 4,000 didn't make a difference. And as I look at other districts, they're asking for $8,000 bilingual stipend for people that are actually working with kids. So is that how we put our resources in there, and then require some staff development to go with it? That's just, it's a difficult conversation, because we've been focusing on the budget and on the programs and on the bonds, and we gotta continue to do all that, but this is also part of it. So, I mean, the strategic development plan has other components other than just this one, but this is the one that we need to deliver on.
So that, I appreciate what you just said, because I was flipping through my slide deck from last year's training visit when I was with you guys, and we spent a lot of time talking about the budget. And one of the most important things we talked about, which you may remember, is it's critical to build your plan and then fund your plan. So often what's happening with so much budget stress is we start just working with the budget, and like you just said, and we're not, and then we're responding, the curriculum instructional program is handling response after we've built the budget. But you need to think of these things through now, so that as you develop the budget, you're funding what's really important to you. And if increasing stipend for bilingual, or doing PD, or doing something to enhance that is a big rock and a priority one, then that's gotta go in the bucket first. And then other things have gotta go in, and then you fund what you've got in there. And then that'll help discern what needs to be strategically abandoned, what needs to be deprioritized down to priorities 2, 3, or 4, what can you just not do yet?
We have tried different things, because we have had bilingual academies and, have the bilingual teachers at one campus, but we're not there yet. Still needs to do some more.
Well, I believe you've got the team to make it happen, and you got the board to make it happen, all the way through. So, what else? Any other thoughts to share? So we'll wrap up. Let's do this. It just feels like we're just, y'all feel defeated right now. That's what it sounds like. But I don't want you to feel defeated. I want you to feel optimistic. So I want to go around, everybody share one takeaway that's sticking with you, that you're gonna keep thinking about after this meeting. One, or I hadn't thought about it that way before. One takeaway, and then give me a one-word check out just about how you're feeling.
Continued communication. Fine.
What's the last word?
Fine.
Fine, good.
Mental health strategies. How am I feeling? Tired. I'm just gonna be honest.
Hey, honesty is the best policy.
How much more learning I have to do? Defeated.
believing in new methodologies of teaching the bilingual and still incorporating the strategic plan in the curriculum.
Mhm.
I still think we're not doing it correctly.
And your one word?
Happy.
You're right.
Continue with communication as a group of 8,
Mhm.
and how I'm feeling, fine, I'm good.
Good, thank you. Three more in the corner there.
Continue figuring out how to execute. How are we gonna continue putting these things into play and then taking what we're learning and bring the positive out of it.
Mhm.
And as far as my one word,
Confused.
optimistic.
Good. Good.
I'll go next. I'm glad, we're looking at the issue right now, which is, I think is, to me, the bilingual.
Mhm.
And the one word is focus on this area. So,
Thank you.
I know this conversation was difficult, but I am, I don't know if excited is the right word, but all 8 board members came. I know there's plenty of things that you had going on, but all 8 board members came for what was gonna be a difficult conversation because we're talking about stuff that we don't usually talk about, but all board members came. And I know that things are always difficult at the beginning, but with that growth mindset, we'll get together again, we'll talk about it, and we'll figure it out a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then we'll get there. So I could pick a lot of words, but I think that encouraged is how I'm feeling. Even though it's difficult, but with a growth mindset, I'm feeling encouraged because I know we'll get there. So I'm encouraged.
Great.
Difficult conversations are worth having though.
Mhm.
We need to have those. If we didn't, we'd be lost.
Well, I would just say, I'm gonna say again, I appreciate your trust to invite me in to have these conversations, to help you through them. You all are a remarkable team, you're a great board. There's so many good things going on, all the celebrations, all the evidence that I read when I go on, and he shows me around the district. I meet people, shake hands, there's so much positivity, so much good going on. And like you said, even the top notch, and even outside of education, the top corporate entities have got challenges. Every organization has got challenges. Nobody's perfect, no one ever will be. And education is always gonna have challenges. The key is how do we respond? And what systems and what is our mindset, the growth mindset, to keep accepting that there is the reality of challenge and always tackling it head on, through hard conversations, changing course, continuously improving our systems, refining, and just keeping it moving forward. And you all are a team to do that. So I'll look forward to seeing you again in a month, and we'll continue the conversation. Any other remarks?
When we started talking about having this type of team of 8 training where it just wasn't, when we do the team of 8 training, it's kind of one of those things to check off to say we did it. And that's a requirement. But this team of 8 training, where we're gonna meet at least one more time, the exciting part about that is, if you recall when we talked about having this, we said, okay, sure, we wanna see how we accomplish what we set to accomplish here within the next couple of years. But we definitely wanna set the stage for the next 5 years on what we're gonna focus on, because we don't know, Mr. Mesa has already indicated that he's not running for the board, so there's gonna be a change. Then we have other board members that are running that still haven't indicated. I'm close to retirement, I may not retire, but I'm close to retirement. So it's important to set a good strategic plan, good goals for the superintendent, so that the district can have a focus for the next 5-10 years, and that focus can't be based just on what the legislature does. Even though we're all consumed by it, I'm excited about setting that focus and continuing to work on it, so that's why I'm encouraged.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Meeting's back to you.
I just wanna thank everybody for being here, and it makes it so much more, I guess, effective when everybody has their input, and, you know, we all, this is the whole thing about teamwork. It was hard for me to come, because I lost my only brother I had left and passed away, but I had to be here.